All rise and join me in a prayer, please. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, we come before you this evening. We thank you for all the blessings that you've given us and the blessings of this beautiful, nice, warm day. We ask that you continue to bless our lives. We ask that you guide our hearts and minds as we work tonight to make decisions that are in the best interest of our water system and its members. And we ask that you watch over and protect our military men and women, our first responders, and all those who work to keep us safe and free every day. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And I'm going to lead everybody in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I'd like to announce that we have a quorum. We have a full board tonight. We have audio and video recorders in use. If you would like to address the board, please fill out the member forum sign-in sheet in the back of the room there in the foyer to address the board. If you want to address the board on a specific agenda item before the board votes, please be recognized and come to the podium, and we'll allow you to speak prior to the board taking a vote. We'll have general member forum at the end of the meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes and transcripts. We have the closed executive session minutes, redacted and unredacted, from June 8th, and we have the regular meeting minutes and transcripts from June 20th. I'd like a motion to approve those.
So moved. I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes?
There was some minor issues with the June 20th minutes. Only 6 of the directors were here, and the votes all said 700, so I had her change that to 600. So that's been corrected.
Okay. Any other amendments or changes to the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstention? Motion carries. Approval of the memberships. We have new memberships of 354, canceled memberships 329, and transfers 3. I'd like to get a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Unfinished business. We have our commercial impact review. Mr. Krigler.
Yes, so this is our commercial impact fee review policy. We've got 2 remaining accounts that we've been working through, that being the TG Navarre Beach Campground, as well as the 4 accounts owned by Mr. Walters. On the Navarre Beach Campground, we've worked out a resolution with that owner. He's we have terms and financing that we have proceeded with him, so that one is on its way to being closed out. We also have come up with an agreement that Mr. Walters has signed that is attached in your packet that kind of documents where we've landed with his accounts in terms of ERUs. There's some an attached table that documents the transfer, and Mr. Walters has signed that. So that's really his request to make the ERU transfer, and that's kind of what we discussed on July 6th, that if that transfer was requested, that the board could vote on that transfer. So.
Okay, so we're looking for staff recommendation is to approve the transfers of ERUs and authorize the CEO to sign the agreement with the member. Would someone like to make that motion?
I make a motion, we approve Table 3, the optional scenario for the transfer of ERUs and the net impact fee.
I'll second it.
Can you add to that motion to authorize the CEO to sign there?
And authorize the CEO to sign the agreement.
Okay.
I'll redo the second.
All right.
I do have a question. I mean, so the agreement is exactly what was presented to us on the 6th?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions?
Mr. President, I'd just like to, since Mr. Walters is here, I'd just like to make sure that he's happy with the agreement.
Should have had that 3 years ago.
Well, I guess I'm happy with it the best. I want this thing over with. It's been a lot of work for me, a lot of worry, and for any business owner, I don't have time for this stuff, but since you got me up here, I'm gonna say something, that might not help me, but this is just the way I feel. Utility companies, which that's what y'all are, should make a policy using concrete data, not conjecture and speculation. That's what's happened. It's taken years to get a correct answer that just so happened to come up at the last possible moment, accompanied with me having to pay quite a bit of attorney fees. This could have all been avoided had the past CEO refused to address my concerns with some seriousness and make an attempt to remedy the situation by putting forth an honest, concerted effort to find the correct data before enforcing this policy. Obviously, the correct data is out there because you found it, but it took this long to find it and me pushing to get it. And for this reason, I'd like the board to possibly consider reimbursing me for some of my attorney fees. I was forced to get an attorney because your CEO told me he couldn't answer my questions anymore, that he had provided all the answers to my questions, and that was it. So your attorney contacted me January of 2022. I've got an email from him. And so therefore forced me to get an attorney. So now, after all this, saying that data was not there, it's not there, that's out there, and kept pushing this policy on, all of a sudden we now know that was all incorrect. There wasn't all the data. They found it, okay? I don't know how they found it. I'm glad they found it. I don't even want to be up here. You know, I just like to pay my bills and do my job. But through this whole process, it feels like I've been stonewalled the entire process and told that, no, that's it, that's it, that's it. You know, engineers have been telling me, no, that's it, we got all the data, you got all the data. It just didn't add up. It just took some common sense to think about it. And y'all went through all your data finally, and miraculously, the last day under the final deadline, the last minute ticking off the clock, you find what I was trying to tell you existed just based on what I know about the property. But anyway, that's all I got to say right now. So I'll accept the deal, but I would like for y'all to digest the fact that possibly I could get some of my attorney fees that I've amassed over the last year and a half. So that's all I got to say. But thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstention? Motion carries. Next up is the Service First Bank loan. Mr. Prigler.
Yes, so we spoke about this initially at our July 6th meeting. This is the line of credit that has a condition in the loan that we essentially move our primary operating account over to Service First. When we saw that, we kind of regrouped, brought this to the attention of the board, and we've since done some analysis. You know, they've requested that if we continue to draw money, that we would have to open an account, and it would be a non-interest-bearing account. I provided an example here, just based on an example of borrowing $1.5 million. Of course, any money we borrow now is going to be at a higher interest rate than we currently have with Service First, but what you have to take into consideration is the interest that we would earn in that operating account. So really the opportunity cost of not having that $3 million in an interest-bearing account outweighs having to pay a higher interest rate if we need to borrow more money for this. So you know, we're recommending that we pay this loan off, $475,000, and close the line of credit.
I make a motion, we pay the line of credit off and close.
I'll second that.
Any questions or discussion on that?
Yes, I do. Jeff, did you and Ms. Barber go through anything with the Eglin that will be able to cover the probability of needing more money for that project? Was that part of this, or was it totally separate?
It's separate in the sense that, you know, when we talk about the Eglin and that loan, we're talking about those kind of restricted projects, the big CIPs. This was intentionally for the unrestricted.
Check.
So we'll regroup on the unrestricted and see what our needs are and make a recommendation.
Okay.
And we did talk to Service First and see if they would be willing to give us interest on that account, and they refused, correct?
They refused on the $3 million amount, is that right, Barbara?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Alrighty. Honavar Water Bylaws Change Committee, Mr. Brigler.
Yes, so I believe at the June board meeting, we were directed to start the process of setting up a workshop to determine the process by which we could change the bylaws. Since then, our attorney has some, I'd say a new development that he wants to discuss about how we change the bylaws, and I think that will kind of speed up this discussion of where we go from here. You wanna-
Mr. Dunaway?
Yes, sir, thank you. So as the board is aware, you have articles of incorporation and you have the bylaws. Your articles of incorporation indicate that in order to amend the bylaws, you have to have a majority of your members approve that. Now, obviously, you have the number of members as you have water accounts. And so you've never had an annual meeting in which you would have the majority of those members present. Your bylaws, however, indicate that you can amend the bylaws with a majority of members present. In Florida, and as we have indicated before, if you have a conflict between your articles of incorporation and your bylaws, your articles of incorporation trump. So we went back and reviewed and looked for case law which might allow us to make an argument and present for you with regards to how you might want to proceed. An option was to, go and seek a deck action from a circuit court because your articles of incorporation are fairly old and you've been operating for many years. We found a 1992 case, which is in the Southern District of Florida in the federal court, but it would be good law in Florida, which would indicate that if your history of adjusting your articles of incorporation are a majority of the members who are present at an annual meeting, and there is an indication that that has been the case in the past, that would be evidence of being able to make those changes. So a potential path forward is for you to propose a change to your articles of incorporation, which would make them consistent with your bylaws, i.e. make the change to allow for the bylaws to be amended with a majority of the members present at your annual meeting. Amend your articles of incorporation in that way with a vote of the majority of the members present at the annual meeting. And then you could then move forward. That's the best path forward that we see for you in order to make that. We believe that trying to get a majority of your members to vote on any particular issue, that would be a difficult and expensive, because you would have to present that and you would have to mail it to everyone. You would have to, have some type of way of hearing back from all, and try to get a majority vote. But we did want to present that to you, have some discussion. We thought that would be better to present it before your workshop so you can have some ideas, because if you wanted to make that, seek that option, then you could use your workshop to figure out what you might want to do if you actually amended.
So is it your suggestion that we focus on trying to amend our articles of incorporation at our annual meeting in January 2024, which would then set the stage for a bylaws amendment to occur sometime after that?
Correct. And you don't, there is nothing that says you can only have one member meeting. You always have one, and that's your election. you could set a special member meeting with proper notice, and you could have a special member meeting for the purposes of amending the bylaws, if that's what you wanted to do. And you could do that, in the next month if you wanted to.
Except for the change required by the articles of incorporations. Does that say at an annual meeting it has to be, or? It can
No,
be a
but that
special
is your
meeting?
next meeting, and you already have that, and so it would make sense that you could do it differently, but that would be what we would recommend.
Any other questions?
Yes, Philip. In this process of amending the Articles of Incorporation, we wouldn't necessarily have to make them consistent with bylaws. I know the bylaws say members present and Articles of Incorporation say 50%, but we don't have to use either one of those. We could vote on something different and change it, correct?
We could.
Because I think that it's, although I agree that 50% plus one is an extremely high bar to reach, I think that 10 members present amending the bylaws or the Articles of Incorporation of a 50-year-old, $100 million company is wrong. And I think that the members should have some input in this too, but that bar is way too low. I would hope that my board member, that the board agrees with me on that.
I would think so as well, but
One does.
also we could certainly advertise it and get more feedback, via mail or whatever, and just have a majority of the members vote a certain way and go with that. But
Maybe 10% or 25% of the membership.
maybe a certain percentage of the
Yeah,
membership has to
some percent.
respond, right?
Well, and there is some mathematics where if you do statistical deviation, it says if you have 20% saying this, the likelihood that all 100% is 98% probability. So I agree it's too low for 10 members, but I agree it's something to look at and what members would be able to accept, yeah.
I think if we're looking at bylaws or articles of incorporation changes, we're going to have a whole lot more than 10 people show up.
I hope so.
I
hope so.
I don't know what that number will be, but they may not fit in this room.
Yeah, but 20% is in the thousands, and I don't think you're gonna have
No,
1,000
we
people
won't have
show up.
1,000, no.
But I do agree that it should be more than 20, it's actually 20 is the number that's required to be able to hold an annual meeting.
Right. Any other board discussion? Mr. Hall?
Do you have a workshop in mind?
Well,
I mean, date, that is?
we could still proceed with the workshop. The first thought was the early part of August to hold one, but I think the topics have changed possibly, but we could still do that if that's what the board wants to do.
And just to reiterate, this was
It would
an
be
open meeting
open
with
meeting.
members be able
Yeah.
to be
It would all be
present, so
open
we're all,
meetings.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think we should have any meetings about the bylaws or Articles of Incorporation that the public is not allowed.
Right.
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed.
Mr. Hall?
Just a question. In some of the organizations I've been with before, when we went to change the bylaws, they made us, I believe it was Robert's Rules of Order, and don't quote me on that, but I believe that was where it came from, that it basically took 2 meetings to change your bylaws. Because like you're saying, you're having this workshop or whatever to come up with what you want them changed to. They always made us read them at one monthly meeting for everybody present, and then vote on them the following meeting. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. I can't swear that's from Robert's Rules, but I believe it is.
And I think whatever changes we make, we want to make sure that it's published to our members, that these are the changes to the bylaws that we are going to be voting on, and have that be at least one meeting ahead of when it's going to get voted on. So I agree with you on that. The longer that we can get this out in front of membership and give them an opportunity to give us feedback on it, the better. Any other discussion? Do we need a board action on this, or I guess?
No, I have an action item for me to schedule a workshop.
Okay,
We'll do that.
all righty. We're on to new business. CEO update, Mr. Krigler.
Yes, thank you. Got several items tonight. The first, I just wanted to kind of update you on our Centennial Bank accounts. We have a cash account with Centennial for hauling of our water system. We have the Messy operating account and the Club of Hidden Creek operating account. Barbara has reached out to them and gotten really two concessions on that. We're now getting significantly higher interest rates on those accounts, just based on her reaching out and having those conversations. We're also now FDIC insured on all those accounts, and they're all over $250,000. So really just wanted to mention it was kudos to Barbara for digging into that and getting those interest rates raised. It's not an insignificant amount of money.
Yeah.
The club's got a good bit of money in their operating account. So this was positive news. I just wanted to recognize Barbara for that. Moving on, this is a bigger item for Barbara. As most of the board knows, we're in the middle of our implementation for Edmunds, which is our ERP software. Prior to the implementation, our financial statements in our board packets were from the Sage software system. That was our prior accounting system. With the implementation of Edmunds, the financial statements are going to look different going forward. So what we want to do is brief you guys on that before we get to the next meeting, where all you're going to see is the Edmunds statements. And we don't look at them and go, oh my gosh, these are these look completely different. So I'm going to let Barbara talk to that. She's got some handouts, but really it's just to kind of get you guys up to speed on these documents.
Basically, I just want you guys to take these back and compare them between the Sage and the Edmunds. Basically the same information. Also, there's a lot of cleanup that I need to do to them to make them be more presentable. I can't change the font, that part, but like separating on the Edmunds part, all of the assets and liabilities are combined. I would like to see the visual with the current assets and other assets separated, and then the current liabilities and long-term liabilities separated. So it's just that type of cleanup that I want.
So is this cleanup that you have to do, or Edmunds can alter the software?
We're working together on it, yeah. I think it's going to be more of them. It's going to be more of them cleaning it up for Edmunds. And then on the income statement side, that's pretty much the way it's going to be. Maybe some language. You'll see the department totals. You don't see the department total name. You'll see a 001 or 002. I think we can rename that to administration or water or sewer. So that'll be more obvious. It does not come with variances, so you don't see a variance on when you're doing the comparison on the reports. That's not an option. I've already checked on that.
Does it have budget versus actual as an option?
It does. We're still working on the budget. The budget's going to need some tweaking a little bit, not number-wise, but that's not looking promising to me as well. But I'm not giving up. I still have a little bit of hope left.
Why are we switching?
How much money do we spend on this software that's not going to give
Why
us
are we
what we want?
switching? What are we doing?
No comment. I just asked for a little bit of patience. This is probably going to take a few months to really figure it all out.
I would be impressed with.
I have hope.
Yes, implementations are always tough, and her group and Donna have been working really hard on it. So.
Remind us that Edmunds is not just a finance piece, it's a operating cost,
It's
a
almost
procurement,
all our
it's a
business activities. It will
billing,
integrate
everything.
accounting, procurement, the billing side, work orders on the operation side, will all be in one software.
And
So in theory, there's a lot of, positives to it, but we just gotta work through those
Like you
kinks.
said, growing pains, but it got us away from some of the spreadsheets from Excel 1998?
I'm not seeing that right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
So,
all right,
again, I'm
No, no.
having a hope, so, but
early days.
yeah.
Yeah, the finance module is first. The billing is supposed to be September. The work orders go with that. So then we'll see.
You say September, they go live September?
Billing will go live
So is
September.
finance live now, or are you?
Oh, it's
still
live.
We're live,
It's live, yeah.
September, July 12th.
Are we running billing and, are we running the software side by side? Or are we switch over and keep our fingers
Yeah.
crossed?
We're operating it the same as when we were with Sage. Everything's a manual entry from the billing side.
All right, any other questions for Barbara?
Two more quick items. I did want to mention we completed a significant CIP project. You can see the picture on the screen. This is the Navarre East Lift Station number 56. This is one of our what I call three regional stations. We got three large regional pumping stations. This one, Panhandle, and Coral Street. This is one of our largest active unrestricted CIP projects. And you can see that it's new site work, new fence, new controls, new bypass pump. I believe it's existing wet well and existing pumps in the station, but this was a significant upgrade to the station. It's really going to help the operations guys out. And so we just like to kind of point this out as good news. It's, these projects tend to take a long time to get done. And this project's going to be good for our upgrade for our wastewater system. So I wanted to point out that we have completed this and it's now in operation. So
There was quite a bit of underground piping that went along with that you can't see in the picture, but.
yeah, we actually
was
we found some really corroded piping that they caught. It could have been a future leak or a future problem, and we got that fixed.
Yeah, it was in bad state of deterioration.
I'm glad that.
We
I
are
think
too.
Ms. Carmen is glad that's fixed.
Yes.
too.
Somebody else out there is more glad than me.
Okay. All right, you have a question on the lift station?
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre. This is great news, and we addressed this a couple meetings ago, and you had said that it was about $560,000 at that time, but it wasn't finished. Can we get a complete cost for the entire project?
Yes, my understanding, and I don't have the figures in front of me, that the complete final cost was somewhere around $700,000, but don't quote me on that. I can get you that information.
One of my questions is that area over there, the retention pond overflows during heavy rains. It goes across the road, and then it just goes everywhere. How will that impact this new project, if at all?
Well, we certainly hope the stormwater and the wastewater are not mixing at all. I'm not picturing the pond you're talking about, but
It's to the northeast of this lift station.
right. This is a completely separate system. This should be wastewater only. There shouldn't be any stormwater from that pond or the road getting into the station at all.
We don't have any history of I&I there from any of the flooding that's occurred.
No, and that's
just
not,
down
it's
there.
not a particularly low area.
Okay, great. And then you all had said that we subcontract the majority of this out because we don't have in-house expertise. Is that true?
Not really expertise. We don't have the equipment and it's an equipment manpower issue. So we typically subcontract out all heavy construction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. And you have
Just last quick item, at the last meeting, we've been talking about insurance. We have attached an insurance tracking sheet at the back of the finances, and that is for all the entities. And so as promised, just wanted to point out that we've included that, and it summarizes all our insurances, expiration dates, premiums. So you look at that. Anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer that.
Glad to see that. All right,
That's
any
it.
questions for Mr. Prigler? Let's move on to finance. Speaking of finance, Mr. Brigley?
Yeah, I don't have anything new on these, on these statements. You have anything, Barbara?
Just wanted to report, I think we had a pretty good month. Though the impact fees were down a little bit, revenue's up, expenses are down. So we had a total revenue of $1,158,344, total expenses of $955,057, and a net income of $203,286. So I think we had a pretty good month.
Good month.
I like it.
All right. Any questions for Barbara on the finances? I'd like a motion to approve the financials as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve financials as submitted.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Motion carries.
Yeah, I do have one question. Did we not have any, did nobody, in May, did nobody, do a 401K?
Those are quarterly.
Okay, but shouldn't we accrue them monthly?
That's not the way we've been
Not the
doing
way
it.
it works?
We could probably work on that. I could get with HR.
Okay. That was it.
Okay, we're going to move on to committee updates. Finance Committee, Joe Campbell.
Nothing of note, everything else is in your package. The one thing we did talk about was the board considering establishing an actual reserve. Right now, it's just kind of a given, so I was just looking for some input to back so the next meeting, so the board can consider whether we need one. There'd be 3 months operating expenses or whatever, based on obviously how much we have in the bank. If we need, based premise on the loan that was taken, do we really need it? Did we need it in the future? And a minimum operating balance for the company.
For unrestricted funds.
An operating reserve fund, so that if the worst happens, hurricane operating, we have 3 months or whatever the case may be, whatever the board establishes, so staff has something to go by. So as we're making financial decisions, the board says, we're not going to go below this in our operating account. And then we could spend that on CIP and don't have to take a loan or whatever. So as Daryl talked about in the meeting, it's kind of been there, but the board has never officially said, yeah, here's our thought process, here's what we want to have in the... Go ahead. No.
Okay, I was gonna say that, I don't think that that's necessarily a job for this board. I think that we all agree that we need a reserve account. I think that staff needs to come back to us and say, this is what we need as a reserve amount for our operating account, and not only the operating account, but for, catastrophic events. We have another clarifier float. We spend $1.4 million on that. If we have some catastrophic event to cover that as well. So I think you need, basically kind of what Mark said, one for the unrestricted and one for the restricted.
Yeah. So in the discussion in the committee meeting was with the staff to come up with, hey, their recommendation for here's what we would need. And then the board obviously make that as policy, okay, here's where we're going below. So that's really all. Anything else, Daryl, from that meeting?
Maybe do
we were online for spending. We were at that.
Yeah, we're right on spending. We're right on in with our percentages. But do we need? We have talked about this reserve account for several years now. But the board has never. I don't believe we've ever officially given a directive to staff. In other words, we've never had a vote here to tell them to give us an amount for reserves in a specific time, and I think that it might be time for this board to do that. Otherwise, we might end up back here in a year talking about a reserve account that we don't know anything about. So is that something the board would entertain?
Let me ask you this, are y'all talking about a separate account for reserves or a threshold?
Just a floor. In other words,
right.
let's take for instance, we've got, I don't know what the figure is, somewhere around $10 million in cash. Problem is we know we have this Eglin project, and we have several other construction projects that are going to total up to a huge amount of money. So whenever the staff and the board is analyzing our financial position for whether we need loans or not, whether we're gonna spend cash. We kinda need to know that, hey, $2 million of that money that's sitting in our checking accounts, we can't spend that, we've gotta keep it. So in reality, we've only got 7 before we have to find financing, so.
And it'll also help you decide how much you have to finance.
Exactly.
So you don't overfinance, but you don't underfinance either, and then it's catastrophic happens.
And if I understand correctly, we actually have a financial analyst on staff that could assist with that. I don't know, do we need a board
We
motion?
can certainly we can certainly bring back some analysis on that.
How long would you need?
Well, we'll get through this Edmunds implementation first. I don't want to promise the August board meeting if we can't pull something good together.
Who are we leaning on? Is it you, Barbara?
To start.
Yeah, it's a group
With the
discussion.
question at
It would
hand?
be
I
a
mean,
group.
yeah, if you're going to talk about, yeah.
I would bet not even, I'd
Okay.
be happy to hear about it when we're doing the budget, saying, here's what we're recommending.
And I think you need to do it for all 3 entities too,
Yeah, I like-
both for Holly Navarre and for the club and for Mace Messy, do it for everybody.
I make a motion that as part of the budget process for this year, staff present us with a requested amount for reserve.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Capital improvement, Don Linnell.
It's every other month?
Oh, every
Yeah,
other
we
month?
had a
Okay, it's on here, so, did we have a budget meeting?
I
O
think
and
we
M?
kinda talked
That's
about
what we
that.
talked about.
Okay. Pension,
We had a pension meeting with the 3 trustees, that being myself, Don Linnell, and our CEO, last week. The good news is for the pension fund, now we're talking about the one that's been not discontinued, been frozen in place, but we still have obligations out there. The estimated terminal liability for that fund is $10.5 million currently. The market value of our assets, thanks to the stock market's been doing very well lately, has increased substantially. So the current market value of our assets is $8.8 million, which gives us an unfunded amount of $1.6 million, which means our current funded liability is 85%. The only thing that rings a bell is that in order to be able to give lump sum payments out of the pension plan, you have to be above 80%, so we're sitting well there. So the actuary has given us some numbers. We don't have to contribute any more to it this year, so that's part of the good news. We already contributed $393K, but we had $357K in the budget, so our delta that we have to find in the budget in order to not break the budget is only like $46K. So that's all I have on the pension fund. It's looking in good shape in all regard, and it'll still be up to us whether at the end of the year we want to make a contribution for 2023 or not. Right now, the actuary says we won't have to make one until early 2024 in order to maintain above 80%.
let's hope that stock market stays.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you never know.
Yeah.
The other retirement plan we have is the 401K program. There's no issues with that, because as you know, that's closed out every year and it's based upon our contributions and employee contributions. The only thing the trustees that we discussed at the meeting is, we want to work and make sure that all the employees understand the benefits of participating in that. Because right now we have a very low participation rate, and we want to make sure that, and I think Jeff is working on having some workshops or whatever to the employees to make sure that they understand that they're passing up some matching funds there, that it'd be to their benefit. I know in this economy, it's difficult to find money to contribute to get the matching funds, but then again, if you look into the future, you're passing up some matching contributions that we need to. So we think they need to work on that, but that's just something that we're continuing process. That's all I have.
On the Eglin reuse project, at our last special meeting, we voted to put the Phase 1 work or bid, I guess, up for rebid, and that advertisement has gone out for that. So hopefully we'll get more bids on that this time around. And then our attorney advised us earlier that the eminent domain process has begun for the condemnation of the properties needed for the transmission line. So that process has begun, and that 120-day clock is ticking on that. So everything's moving along and on schedule. We're all good.
We have all our permitting and everything. Everything that can be done prior to selecting the contract.
Okay, well, I mean, so realistically, we need a contractor and we need to finish up the, taking of the land or the easement acquisition, and then we can start.
Have we let the contract for the environment, I'm sorry. Have we let the contract for the environmental impact study yet? You know, for the,
That'll,
Yes.
the part of it will be done by the contractor as part of the contract, and we will handle the rest as required.
okay. So some of that's in-house.
Yes.
Club at Hidden Creek, Mr. Brickman.
Yes. So we are underway with our event room renovation at the club. Believe they've got the ceilings painted. Carpet's been torn up, and we're expecting remainder of painting and the new flooring to go down in the next, I believe, week or two. So we're excited about this project. The staff over there is too, and we're looking to get some increased usage out of that event space there. So it's been a good team effort between our folks here and the club.
What flooring did they go with? LVP?
LVP, very similar to what's in the new expansion back there.
Right.
Yeah. We think that was the best choice based on the options. We do have a contractor ready to get to work on some of those erosion issues at Pond 9. We're hoping to have him out there Monday. Quentin was actually out there today and solved a problem with some of the flow between Pond 8 and 9. So that was positive. And then we'll hopefully get this berm rebuilt when the contractor gets out there. Just looking at the financials, May was another good month for the club. They're having really good revenues out there, and they had a good net profit number for May. Through the year, they're $134,000 through 5 months. Through 5 months in 2023. So still good good news out there on their numbers. Let's see. That's it for the club this month.
All right. How about Fairpoint?
Fairpoint, the kind of the hot topic is we're in the process of revising the member agreements with the 3-member utilities. Well, actually, later on in this agenda, we'll be considering the member agreement between Fairpoint and Holly Navarre. We have yet to finalize the agreement with Navarre Beach. That is still outstanding, but we are in the process of finalizing the agreement with the 3-member utilities. The other item on Fairpoint is we're working on a master plan update. We hope to have some good results from that here probably, hopefully before the end of the year, certainly maybe October, November. So.
All right. And municipal engineering, Bill Phillips.
I don't have anything to report other than, as you see, our insurance renewal is before the board tonight, for the board to take action. We have I think last month I discussed in detail some stuff that we're proposing to do with Holly Navarre, and we have a board meeting scheduled up, I think, for the next couple of weeks. I can't remember what the date was now, David.
I'm not sure we have one.
So there may not be a date set yet, but it's supposed to be in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Any questions on any of those? All right, we're going to move on to, as Mr. Frickler referenced, the member agreement for Fairpoint.
Yeah, so this is the member agreement between Fairpoint and Holly Navarre Water System. And we've included a memo that describes the changes. We've included the red line version of the document, as well as a final version that we're asking you to approve tonight. And I'm going to let Phil talk through some of the specific changes that we've come up with.
So, Fairpoint's water use permit expired. The initial one that was originally issued at the very beginning of Fairpoint as that water use permit was expiring, Fairpoint asked for both its members and its non-member users to update their projections for 20 years so that we could request a new permit. The basic requirement to modify the member agreement is due to those changes and those requests by the utilities. However, in addition, as all of you know, Holly Bar now formally, by agreement, operates Fairpoint Regional Utility System. And within that agreement to operate, that formal agreement, there are requirements to do certain things. Some of those requirements to do certain things did not agree with the language that's in the members' agreement. Additionally, there were items in the members' agreement that hadn't been exactly followed since day one. For instance, the audit by the members' agreement and the bylaws is required to be completed in a certain amount of time from the end of the year. That audit has always been completed in conjunction with hauling of ours to save Fairpoint money and also to, both from the cost of the audit and from the staff required to complete that. So one of the changes is to make those types of items correct and in agreement with the agreement that Holland Bar executed to operate the system. We've listed generally all of the changes that have been proposed to the members agreement here. I will entertain questions about any of them. I don't think y'all want me to walk through every single one of them. I will add, though, before those questions, there were 2 items in the bylaws that are also being proposed to be changed as well. And those items are also being changed because of the history of what's been done, the bylaws that exist, and the terms.
Hang on. There's a restroom in the back.
There's a restroom in the foyer.
And the agreement to operate. So that's the requirement for the changes to the bylaws as well. Questions?
Any changes to the reimbursement? We will still get reimbursed at those rates that were there?
No changes to the reimbursement.
And about the draw from each, I see that allows for temporary between the two of us if we draw more than.
Yes, one of the items that has changed, there's a pretty specific prohibition in the members agreement against a member seeking water from another source or from the members sharing sources. Over the years, there have been emergencies that have occurred, and each time one of those emergencies occurs, it's been pretty standard practice, where required, to seek permission of all the members to do that. The members decided that that was kind of a painful process to undertake, particularly since those emergencies occur in the middle of the night. So language has been added to allow Holly Navarre as the operator to make those decisions in conjunction with the members that they affect so that emergency supply can be provided.
And then last question, anything in here, keeping in mind they're probably watching, but any other members is contentious as we go forward? We're looking to approve our part of this tonight? Or is this just a first?
My understanding is Midway has approved theirs and Gulf Breeze has approved theirs. And then
So
In my opinion is there's nothing contentious here. Everyone was in agreement with all of the changes.
Cool.
Yeah, we had staff workshops. I think we met 3 times and talked through it all.
Okay, that's all I have.
And our Fairpoint representatives are in favor of these changes? I know y'all probably spent several meetings beating all this up.
We had a nice discussion. Oh, I'm in favor, absolutely.
Okay. All right. We're looking, staff recommendation is to approve the changes to the member agreement. So would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries.
And and an approval of the resolution to change the bylaws.
It's a consent,
Oh, yes.
consent to change the bylaw.
Correct.
We need a,
I make a motion to consent to change, the bylaw.
Second.
Third.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that ends that agenda item. Guidelines, standards, and specifications policy update, Mr. Prigler.
Yes, so back in 2018, Holly Navarre did a thorough update to its kind of standard specifications and guidelines. And from time to time, the utilities have to revisit the standards and the specifications. Either operations finds things in the field that work better, technology changes. It's really a document that changes over time. So we do have two what we think are fairly minor changes we'd like to make to our standard details. They both have to do with our standard detail for a wastewater lift station. The first one is just a concrete ring around our sewer manholes, and that's just to protect the manhole. When they pull the lid so that you don't get rocks down in the manhole, we think the cost on that's negligible, pretty minor. The second item does have a cost impact. The reason we're bringing this to the board is that our majority of our new lift stations are put in by developers. So if we're going to change our standards and make the lift station more costly, we feel like we need to present that. That specific change has to do with the above-ground piping. In the past, that's been coated ductile iron. The operations staff has noticed a lot of corrosion with that piping and feel that stainless steel equipment is going to serve us a lot better. So the memo details the kind of the price range. We think it could range anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 more per lift station. And just as a frame of reference, I think these new stations are costing anywhere $500,000-$600,000 for a brand new one. So it's not a significant percentage of the station, but we think this is a maintenance item that will help the operations staff. So we're asking for approval to change that specific detail.
I trust we used the new stuff for the one we just did on 87.
Actually, it was in the picture. There was stainless steel piping in the picture. I should have pointed.
We were going to put that picture up there.
Should have pointed that out. But it is on there. Yep.
Jeff, is this is an industry standard sort of thing? This is
A
not
lot
like
of utilities are going to.
Maserati
Yep.
we want
It is
to.
Yep.
becoming the industry
Stainless
standard.
steel. Yep.
Okay.
And just to add something, Jeff's commentary in the memo addresses the initial cost. And yes, to have stainless steel appurtenances and piping, there is a little bit of additional cost. But there is actually a long-term cost savings. The stainless steel appurtenances and piping never has to be replaced. I've never seen stainless used in that situation that has had to have anything done with it, internally or externally. Whereas we are replacing both valves, 90s, every appurtenance and piece of pipe, except maybe some straight pieces of pipe on these lift stations through the valve boxes and coming out of the wet well. So
Even though you're still coating the straight pieces, you got a maintenance issue
yeah,
there.
Worst environment,
Right.
worst.
And
so it's
just,
actually a significant long-term savings.
and I don't see anything here about having to retrofit, so this is literally
It'll
new
be
stations.
new stuff
So
going
if you're
forward.
repairing, is the
Yes.
verbiage going to be if you're repairing?
Well,
Well, that would be us.
and we have control over our in-house
We
project.
would
So
be- Yes, we
Right.
would.
Check, okay.
Are these just for the lift stations that Holly Water System will be taking over, or are these for everyone regardless of whether we're taking them over or not?
I would say for a private station, they have to meet DEP requirements. I don't think we can enforce our construction detail for a private lift station.
Except for components, Daryl, that have some special requirement as to pump into our system, we don't have much say in that.
But it
Okay,
goes,
I didn't know if this policy made it to where they had to use stainless steel even though we didn't have to do it.
the only thing I think where that would come in is if they want us to our advantage to take one over we're gonna insist that it be,
It meets our
Yeah.
standards.
meet our
that's right.
standards.
Oh, no, most definitely,
Absolutely.
I would suggest that we not
Not-
accept it
yeah,
unless
please, no
there's-
more.
it's stainless steel.
In hauling of our system, and Clinton will correct me if I'm wrong here, we're no longer in a position where that happens very much. The lift stations that are private remain private.
Yeah.
They are on apartments, and large commercial installations are those types of properties where there's private lift stations. We don't see.
No, but in the past, though, we have picked up some lift
Yes, sir, we
stations.
have,
And
absolutely.
we've agreed when they were developing that we were gonna assume control of it, so I wanna make sure that if it's our standards, they will have to be built to that
Absolutely, absolutely. and that-
requirement.
Okay, so just so I get it clear, if it's not something that we're gonna take over, then they can do it
Yep.
with the ductile iron, just like they have in the past. But if it's something that we might take over, we would require them to use stainless steel, but we're not gonna require them to use stainless steel unless it's something that we take over, correct? Okay.
Correct. All right, any other questions for Phil? I think we need a motion to approve this. Someone like to make that motion?
I make a motion to change the lift station
Standard detail.
approval status.
Plate up,
I'll second it.
approved guidelines, in.
Is that enough?
Yeah, is that enough detail to, the
I'd say amend,
staff's
amend the,
recommendation?
yeah, amend the lift station detail per staff's recommendation.
I make an amendment to, or a motion to, amend the, lift station details, as staff has, suggested.
Second that.
3 seconds, okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. We're up to the Messi 2023 annual insurance renewal.
Yeah, so this should be the last of the big renewals for the year. I think we have one in November, but I think it's just one of our policies at the club possibly. But this is for all the Messi insurance. I think their renewal date is August 1 on most of their policies. The total on their policies is around $45,000, as you can see here. I think it's a little bit increase from last year. I think they were in the mid-30s, but it's what we're seeing across the board is higher insurance costs. Alex Niedermeyer has patiently waited till the end of the agenda. He's with Underwood Anderson, and he can certainly answer any questions, specific questions you have on the Messi policies. But these are pretty standard. I don't think there's anything different than what we've gotten insurance for in the past. So,
How much of an increase over last year's was it?
I believe it was in the mid-30s. Do you remember, Phil?
I think it's actually less than that.
Like
Because
low
we're
30s?
trying to compare the policies, including the 2-year policy now. I want to say it was like $3,000 a year. That's probably a bad quote on my part, but it's something on that order. I was happy with it, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who watches it, so.
My only question is, so the premium summary, if you go back, we only have, Messi has 2 vehicles,
That's correct.
and it's almost $8,000 commercial for those 2 vehicles.
That's
And they're
correct.
not even special vehicles, they're F-150s, F-350s, whatever they are.
That is correct.
Okay. Just seems high to me, honestly.
Well,
I didn't expect it to be $100.
Alex can,
Okay. Yeah, sure. Is it because his bad driving record?
neither one of us.
Phil specifically, actually. So comparables on auto owners insurance, we do a ton of business with them. We have the water system for several years. The auto policy is with them also. We did quote it with Liberty Mutual, which is a very close comparison with a carrier like auto owners. The Liberty Mutual auto premium, I believe, was $21,000. Auto insurance, in our last board meeting, Jim talked about how terrible property insurance is right now, premium-wise. Auto insurance is almost equally, because they're both considered property. They get damaged in storms, they get flooded, and auto accidents in the state of Florida are just, since COVID has happened, is just horrendous. So rates across the board are, I hate to use the word ridiculous, but they're ridiculous. They really are. So to go out to comparisons, we pulled Liberty Mutual. Pretty much hands down, we will put stuff with auto owners probably 9 times out of 10, if not more than that, if it's possible, auto owners generally is the better option. They also give a paid in full discount, which other companies do not do.
Which was $1,150 something dollars just for your
$11.59.
information.
Paying full discount.
Yeah, so it helps there too. And the GL, right? The GL is with them. General liability gives a little paid in full discount too. So
It just hit me as 1/6 of the total price for.
yeah, it's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot, and we deal with it pretty much on a weekly basis in conjunction with the property insurance. Excuse me, I just got an email from one of our carriers talking about the state of the auto market and how they're still around and want to quote because so many carriers are fleeing the state, and auto insurance is just one of those.
But you're right, it's weird when you consider our auto policy is $8,000 a year, and we're carrying $2 million worth of professional errors and omission, and that quote was like $5,400.
It's not an electric vehicle, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's all I had, thank you.
And the traveler's wrap policy is a 3-year policy, okay, started last year.
Yeah.
So there's no, and it matches the other policies that we have with the other entities, and the professional liability didn't get shot because it's a 2-year policy, okay, which ends next year. So once we come up to that, we'll put, probably not the traveler's wrap because they really do a good job for us, but on the professional liability, it'll go back out again. And then hopefully we can get another 2-year policy. They have done that more lately. Actually, we did that, Phil, a few years ago before it went to the other agent. Was put it on a 2-year policy because professional liability has become, again, it's a very litigious climate right now. So if we can hold a rate for 2 years, then we try to do that. So that's kind of the methodology behind that. Even though we're not the ones that did it last year, we did do it 3 years ago. So hopefully that will continue. We can keep those multi-year policies. It helps with rate.
Thank you for that information.
Yep.
All righty, can we get a motion to approve the insurance renewal quote as presented?
I make a motion to approve the Messi insurance renewal as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Nays or abstention? Motion carries. All righty, last item is engineering. Bill Phillips.
Again, I'll just point out the INI. The INI has gotten better in the last month. We're down below that 100,000 gallons per day, but you can still see that wastewater this year looks like it's going to increase something on the order of about 200,000 gallons per day, above and beyond last year, which is kind of the result of everyone moving into all that growth that we've seen, including the apartments. But the INI is pretty good, and I think Clinton actually, he and operations have solved some of the unaccounted for water loss in the last month too. Although I can't remember what exactly it was, I'll let y'all pick on Clinton on that.
6%, so 6.9 unaccounted for.
Yeah, which is usually about the average trend that you like to see. We made some minor adjustments to some meters that were running a little high, and then we have found a bunch of leaks. It seems like every week we have a couple, 3 that reared their ugly head up, and we put a fix on them, so.
Phil, on the INI, we had a pretty dry spring, so that helped a lot. Did you notice any increase in the INI since we've had a lot of rain here in the last couple of weeks?
I have not looked at it in the last couple of weeks, Bill. I'm kind of under the impression from a conversation with Chris Legg the other day that he wasn't seeing it in the last couple of
Good.
weeks. But really and truly, Mark Turner follows it, and Mark's on vacation, so I don't have a good feel for it.
Any other questions for Phil?
I have one alibi, and it's not, so a while ago, the county submitted for some septic to sewer stuff. Do either of you have an update on that?
My understanding is that we are going through, the county's leading an effort that involves us, Pace Water System, I believe the city of Gulf Breeze as well, and they are putting in an application, I believe, is it
Yeah.
Tom King Bayou?
Yes.
putting in an application for that under the Water Quality Improvement Grants program.
Okay, so one of them did make the cut then? I don't know if some of the board members might.
It was submitted. I don't know that we were awarded funding. It was submitted.
Right, submitted,
Yeah.
but doesn't necessarily mean we get funding for it, so.
I think saying making the first cut is probably more accurate as to what's going on. Although the county is also pursuing a second line of funding that she's asked Holly Navarre to participate in too as well, that might result in the potential of partial grant for design of even additional projects potentially, so.
In the Tom King project, is it for the entire buyer or just that subdivision?
Daryl, you know, they applied for a big pot of money.
Okay.
Several entities in the county, us and Pace primarily, but the city of Gulf Breeze, and I believe Milton actually participated too. My understanding is they think of that great big pot of money, they're gonna get something less. And her email was interpreted by me to mean that there's probably gonna be something there. How that gets split up and prioritized, I don't think we know the answer to that yet. So
It was almost indicated like there'd be several phases of it in just that Tom King area, so.
yes, yeah.
And it was to save the oyster beds. So is it possible to, because some of the board members, it's been several months since that came, is there something you can just update those that don't know of which
I think
areas we're talking?
we could do an update on that next month, maybe do a
If you
funding
would,
update,
please.
because there's
Put a
also.
little map, we can put
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
we could put the application material that we
Yeah.
gave the county in there,
Yeah.
and that would give
She,
you a great idea.
the county's also working on a separate funding effort for some resiliency money that we could use at some of our lift stations. So there's a couple of funding opportunities we could update the board on. That's probably a good idea.
Thanks for that, Alabama.
I believe last year somebody had mentioned that the Gulf Consortium funds that one of our county commissioners got rid of for us several years ago may actually come back into play. Is that something that's still
Well, I
out
think
there?
that's part of this money.
Okay.
There's 5 different sub-programs
Yeah.
going on, and I think that some of this, and while we're on the topic, there's also some DEP money floating around out there that we're actually right in the middle of talking about whether or not we have something that could be submitted for that pot of money. That pot of money that I'm talking about is the same pot of money that's given us the $10 million for the South Santa Rosa Reuse Initiative. 2.6 directly to Holly Navarre for phase 1. So, I mean, there's obviously some politics, and if you're right at the top of that list already, whether something else could be funded, but that doesn't mean if the application isn't simple that we shouldn't submit something, if we've got something that we can submit. So actually, we've been talking about that the last couple of days.
I had a question about the county paving some of these roads and paving over the manholes. You guys seeing this? We concerned about this?
Yeah.
We've been in contact with the county.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll work out a resolution where maybe we can work together a little closely.
It was like they left out maybe kind of strategic ones and then left a little hole here and there. Yeah, anyways, just meant to bring it up. And, yeah.
All right, any other questions for Phil? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our member forum. First up, I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name, Jerry W. Do you want to speak? Okay. Chuck Pullman.
Yeah, Chuck Pullman, 2956 PGA Boulevard. It's just a quick question, and I haven't made one of these meetings in a while, and I apologize, but I know we've talked in the past about proxies coming up. We have elections coming up, I think, in January or so forth. Is this something connected to the bylaws, the proxies? Okay, so you have to go through the committee that Mr. Krigler is involved in. Is that one of the issues that we're gonna discuss, or they're gonna discuss?
Could be, we haven't decided what those proposed change, the board's gonna come up with proposed changes, we haven't really discussed those yet.
That's one of the ones that we spent a lot of time discussing, and our attorney let us know about the bylaws and how they worked, and that we had to have over 50% of the members vote on it, and how difficult that was gonna be, and then that's one reason we kind of want to get the bylaws changed, so we can fix stuff like that.
Okay. I mean, is that something that might be settled before January's elections? Or is that?
Well, it's going to require a change to the articles of incorporations and the bylaws, which I would say would be a tall order to do prior to this election. And the bylaws do specify that we have to allow proxy voting.
Okay.
Florida statutes say that if your bylaws allow proxy voting, you have to have proxy voting.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. All righty, Harlan Hall.
Blue. Right.
Harlan Hall, 7712 Manatee Street, Navarre. I'm sure you guys have heard about this probably from other people, but I don't know the answer, so I might ask you. Is there anything you can do with that lift station on Coral?
It's been pretty ripe lately, hasn't it?
That thing is horrible. And sitting there waiting for that light, it doesn't matter if your windows are up or not. If your air conditioner's on, you're getting it full force. And you know what the temperature's been like lately. You know, you shut that air conditioner off for a couple minutes, it'll be 100 plus in your car in no time. But is there something that they can do or is going to be done about that?
We've been working on an odor. You know, you're never going to get rid of the smell.
Okay,
because it is what it is. And of course, this time of year, as hot as it is,
it don't help.
It intensifies it. So we're trying out several different products.
Okay.
So we are working on it. I'm
not trying to bust your balls over it.
No, but you're not the first one, and it's not like, I mean, it's been going on for years that we've been trying to solve the problem.
Okay.
So,
This is way out of my league, Clint, but is there some kind of a smokestack you could put on it to vent the fumes high enough that'd be above the truck?
we actually have raised, so there is a scrubber on it, and it vents out. It used to vent out and just turn right over there towards the turning lane. But we have raised that stack up higher to try to get it, you know, to disperse out in the atmosphere higher up, so maybe the smell wouldn't be as bad. It seemed to work for a while, but we are starting to get a few more complaints now. We're working with another product that we have used in the past that worked, but we had a little issue at the plant with it. We're trying to administer this product in a lower dose, and hopefully we'll find the magic formula with the dosage, and we can eliminate most of the smell. We'll never kill it.
And we're still diverting some through Greskovich and up?
So Coral Street takes probably a third of the flow.
At least
third of it, maybe a little more, because it gets it from the west and from the east, from around, just short of Panhandle. All the flow down 98 comes into Coral Street to go to our wastewater treatment plant. We have diverted flow from Panhandle lift station, everything east into Panhandle. Now it goes through Navarre East that we just rehabbed, and then that comes in through the backside of the plant. So,
and just to confirm, because you explained it to me at one point that it's everybody's using the facilities at the same time everybody's going to work, so it's kind of like rush hour at the lift station is rush hour at Coral and 98.
That's correct. So about the time everybody's gotten ready and all that stuff has gone down the drain, it makes it to that lift station about the time they're going out on 98 out through Valley by the Sea. So, you know, timing is not, there's, you know, times are.
But you're still looking at it.
Yes, we are trying to find the magic bullet. Just haven't found it yet.
All right, thanks for that update. Carmen Reynolds.
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre, I'm back. Apologize 15, 20, 25 years, I've been going out that door to go to the restroom, and I forgot that there was one in the back, in the new revamped area. So my apologies for that indiscretion. I would like to commend Director Campbell for his astute observation that we need reserve funds. This is astute disaster emergency planning all across the board, and I look forward to what the staff brings back. Number two, talking about all the grants and things that the county's working, I hearken back to some earlier comments I made last year, and that was the feasibility of community development block grants that were being done actually in Gulf Breeze on, I believe it's Old Hope Road. In that area, they were having some flooding issues, and the county worked with the city of Gulf Breeze to do those community development block grants, which they did get. And we talked about that for expanding water lines in first and second edition. So I will say it again, that if the water system identifies those areas, and the income has to be like the average income or below average income, and Mr. Phillips seemed to think that at the time that we could justify that. I think those would be very credible and initiatives by the water system to work collaboratively with the county, and you guys and gals on the staff could take credit for those initiatives, and I would be happy to work with you on that. Finally, the water testing results. There are some questionable, I'm not trying to be cantankerous or obstinate or argumentative in any way. I just want to know why some of the things are showing up in your reports to the EPA. Arsenic, the nitrates, the radium. According to the Environmental Working Group, some of these levels are above the health standard, and specifically the trihalomethanes are coming out at about 117%, what they should be. So the trihalomethanes are concentrated chlorines, and they are deleterious to your health. And my question is the water so deficient and bacteriated that it needs that high amount of chlorines, or are we just throwing high amounts of chlorine at it just for shits and grins?
Well, I'll start that. So my understanding is that we're in compliance with the constituents you mentioned. We're not out of compliance. There may be detections of those constituents, but my understanding is we're in compliance with all the standards that we have to monitor for. That being said, on the operations side, they do have to consider that when they set that chlorine dosage. But I believe they've optimized that to control the trihalomethanes. So we are conscious of that, and I believe, especially since we have such a long run from Bear Point down to Holland, down to Navarre here, that's something we have to continually be monitoring. That's what we're doing. So I don't know that we can eliminate THMs completely, but we certainly are monitoring for them and are in compliance.
Right.
So I'm not sure what set of samples you're referring to.
The EPA, you all send them to the EPA, and the EPA, they're accessible.
Okay.
So the Environmental Working Group posts these for all water systems across the United States. And the ones that I brought up, certainly not all, but 7 of them have come to their attention. And so that's why I referenced them, so that you can look at that. And thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Any other business? Otherwise, I'll like a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank y'all for coming.